This is Seymour Rocks reporting from Down Under. This is my second report of the day, and I want to concentrate on abrupt climate change and extreme weather um, headlines. And it's absolutely impossible to keep up or to cover everything. So this is going to be more impressionistic, and I will leave the links for the articles in the description below. So Robert Scribbler, Robert Marston Fanny, seems to have made a comeback after many months. He's putting stuff on his blog again, and he even had a break from making videos. But he's back again, and it's a very convenient way. I don't agree with him in many respects in his assessment of things. I think he's conservative. I think he might even be being paid by Tesla to pull the wool over our eyes. But for all of that, he's not a bad reporter on these things, and it's an easy place to go to get the latest. So this is the latest. Perturbed Earth, why is heat trapping methane on the rise? Globally, atmospheric methane levels have been on the rise over recent years. And though the rate of rise is not as dramatic as during the late 1980s yet, the relative rise of atmospheric methane has caused concern amongst scientists. For long period of severe weather, very long period of severe weather predicted for coming days. One of the longest periods of severe weather in recent histories may be on tap for regions of the central US over the coming week, a zone in which 44 million people live, and that covers 18 states, is under the gun for severe weather formation for at least the next 8 days, and there are a number of climate change related factors that are contributing to the severe storm potential. And of course, what he doesn't mention is there's some very serious stuff happening in California, and we should all be very worried about Oroville, the lake there, which is at almost 900 feet. And this goes back a few days. We probably all know about this. The hot 15 million year time machine. We've reached the milestone of 415 parts per million. So there we are. And the United States just experienced its wettest 12-month period on record. According to reports from NOAA, the US just saw its wettest 12-month period since records began 124 years ago. The fact that this stretch of extremely wet weather was preceded by a time of extraordinary drought during the 2010s is also notable, because it is exactly this type of swing from one extreme to the next you would expect in a world being forced to warm itself by fossil fuel burning, and that, of course, includes very cold conditions. Los Angeles fire season is beginning again, and it will never end. A bulletin from our climate future. That's despite the fact that we're having unprecedented rain in California and all the lakes and reservoirs are full. And we're seeing thunderstorms far inside the Arctic Circle. Thunderstorms hit Lapland in the far northern parts of Finland, Norway, and extreme northwest Russia. This is far inside the Arctic Circle at latitudes 68 to 70 degrees north. And meanwhile, while America's beset by floods and can't even make plantings, Australia is to import wheat for the first time in 12 years as drought eats into grain production. Biosecurity concerns raised over import from Canada as Australia's winter crop forecast to drop 20% below the 20-year long-term average. And one wonders, in the future where the imports are going to come from. This raises the spectre of simultaneous crop failures, which we've been warning about for some time. And then in 1982, Exxon predicted 2019's ominous carbon dioxide milestone, so they already knew it back then. And we're jumping a wee bit. I'm just doing this in order in which they come for logistical reasons. Florida's worst nightmare is back. It killed thousands of tons of marine life last year. Red tide has arrived on Manatee County shores early. It was the unprecedented horror of 2018 for Florida's beaches when toxic algae killed thousands of tons of marine life and have returned. Red tide is back in Manatee County shores. News that will be unwelcome to everyone. And this extremely hot weather in northwest Russia today, it reached 31 degrees inside the Arctic Circle. That's May the 12th. Other reports have said 29. As expected, extremely high temperatures were reached in northwest Russia today. Locations as far as almost 65 degrees north, pushed above 30 degrees Celsius. 31 degrees Celsius in Koinas, Arkhangelsk Oblast, at 64.8 degrees north, just south of the Arctic Circle. So I'll be reporting more on that time. And here again, RT has got onto it. 29 degrees. A sudden temperature surge occurred near the shores of the Arctic Ocean in northwest Russia, where the air heated to the unprecedented 29 degrees Celsius this weekend. Meanwhile, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has reached an all-time high, measuring 415 parts per million for the first time in human history. So that's a fairly rare but increasing incidence of reports on climate change in RT, Russia Today. And then with radical Arctic change comes spawning cod in new northern waters. So the Arctic Ocean is heating due to the influx of warm water from the Atlantic, and that of course is bringing fish species seeking cooler waters. And this goes back several days. I've already reported on this. Black skies over Siberia as wildfires rage around the world's oldest lake, and I think they're talking about Lake Baikal. Cries to urgently call a state of emergency in the Irkutsk region as it chokes in smoke. And then from the Antarctica, extraordinary thinning of ice sheets revealed deep inside Antarctica. New research shows affected areas are losing ice 5 times faster than in the 1990s, with more than 100 meters of thickness gone in some places. I'll repeat that, with more than 100 meters of thickness gone in some places. And where are we? I don't know why that's come up. Anyway, the Tennessee River is at peak levels on the Tennessee River. Global warming will reduce the amount of carbon absorbed by forests because higher temperatures will mean the lifespan of trees will be shorter. Trees grow faster, and we're experiencing that right where I live, as temperatures increase and have a shorter life expectancy. The overall impact means trees will soak up less atmospheric carbon dioxide, and carbon that is stored in the trees is returned to the environment when they die. And I can say with our lovely magnolia tree in our garden, and reports from our friend who's an arborist, that trees in New Zealand are starting to dry out. They're losing their sap. And Mexico City declares a pollution emergency and tells its 9 million residents to stay indoors with windows shut as smoke from wildfires chokes the street. The Environmental Commission of the megalopolis acted after soot particles level hit 6 times the WHO limit. Wednesday's football match between America and Leon FCs was postponed to Thursday after players felt ill, and striking images show the city with 21 million shrouded in smog as citizens go on with their routine in face masks. And here we are again. Mexico cancelled school in the capital due to poor air quality. Mexico's education ministry cancelled schools in the capital and surrounding areas for Thursday due to the siege of air pollution. Weather conditions at the end of Mexico's dry season, combined with dozens of brush fires burning in and around the city, have produced a blanket of smoky haze. And I saw something the other day, a map, which showed that there are fires all over Mexico. And meanwhile, in the Mediterranean, millions of birds vacuum to death annually in the Mediterranean. New research has discovered that millions of birds, in addition to those that are already dying, are being vacuumed up as part of the nocturnal suction olive harvesting in the Mediterranean. And certain predictions were made in the past. Exxon predicted in 1982 exactly how high global carbon emissions would be today. CO2 in the atmosphere has reached unprecedented levels. And of course, having made all the right predictions, they went on to lead the thing of denying climate change. So they knew what was going on and decided not to tell the public. And the UN chief is concerned that a nuclear coffin is leaking in the Pacific. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres raised concerns Thursday that a concrete dome built last century to contain waste from atomic bomb tests is leaking radioactive material into the Pacific. Speaking to students in Fiji, Guterres described the structure on Enewetak Atoll on the Marshall Islands as a kind of coffin and said it was a legacy of Cold War-era nuclear tests in the Pacific. And I think last but not least, not unexpected, the Trump administration outdoes itself on climate change denial and insists that the Arctic warming is good. Among intergovernmental bodies, it is hard to find a more congenial, consensus-driven body than the Arctic Council. This organization, comprised of the foreign ministers of the 8 Arctic states and leaders of the 6 Arctic indigenous organizations, has managed to find the common ground on issues of sustainability and the environment, even during the politically tense standoffs among members, such as when Russia invaded Crimea. But of course, Trump has upset the apple cart. So, folks, that's it. We'll leave it there. This is Seymour Rocks reporting from Down Under.